Welcome to the Nittaa YouTube channel. I am Sandhusiara, an undergrad from the Singapore Institute of Management. Today, I'm going to talk about COVID-19 and the cytokine storm it causes. If you are unfamiliar with the term cytokine storm, I can assure you that by the end of this video, you'll be absolutely clear of it and also aware of how to modulate it. So let's look at what exactly happens when someone gets infected with the COVID-19 virus. To put it simply, when the virus enters the body through our respiratory organs, it moves down into our lungs and attaches itself to receptors, namely ACE2 and CD147. These receptors are meant for our own bodily mechanism purposes. However, because of how well the viral shape fits into our receptors, our cells get tricked into internalizing these viruses because of the successful binding that has taken place. After entering the cell, the virus goes rogue and uses our own cell machinery to replicate the viral DNA. You can call this hijacking. Our immune system is like our police force that goes around looking for intruders and destroying them. However, in some cases, the immune system goes overboard and loses control. This is when it gives rise to the cytokine storms. Cytokines are signaling molecules released by some of our white blood cells to recruit the help of more immune cells to the site of infection by inducing inflammation. So a cytokine storm, as you can imagine, is an aggressive inflammatory response where the site is flooded with cytokines for some reason. I'm going to now try to explain to you what this reason is. First, let's look at what happens in a healthy person. For example, since COVID-19 seems to be more aggressive in elderly patients, let's see what happens in a healthy young adult. When the virus crosses the epithelial layer by endocytosis, dendritic cells get attracted to the site. The dendritic cells are white blood cells that chew up some of the viral particles, take some of the particles with them, and move into our lymph nodes. Here at the lymph nodes, they present the viral particles to helper T cells, another type of white blood cell. This particle acts as an activator and causes the T cells to differentiate into two types, CD4+ and CD8+, each with its own function. CD8+ cells release cytotoxic molecules that can kill the virus, and CD4+ cells either produce pro-inflammatory cytokines or anti-inflammatory cytokines. Now, this is where we have to give our immune system some credit. It releases pro-inflammatory cytokines to induce a certain level of inflammation so that other white blood cells get attracted to fight the virus at the site. However, it also releases another set of cytokines, anti-inflammatory cytokines, to bring down the inflammation so that the two can eventually balance out without causing any harm to the body. So in a healthy person, this system takes place without issue. The balance helps create a normal immunological response, and the viral threat is kept under control. So now we're going to look at what happens in an unhealthy patient. For example, an elderly patient infected with the virus. At first look, everything seems pretty much the same, with a few additional molecules that seem to be present. Now, if you take a look at this diagram, similar to the previous, the virus enters, dendritic cells bring particles to the lymph nodes, and the relevant T cells get activated. The one big difference here seems to be the presence of reactive oxygen species, ROS for short. A build-up of ROS in cells may cause damage to DNA, RNA and proteins and may even cause cell death. Now, in weaker patients like elderly with compromised immune systems, there is a high concentration of this ROS circulating their bodies. In the case of a viral infection, ROS actually increases the amount of pro-inflammatory cytokines produced on top of what has already been released by the T cell activation. So this completely throws off the balance that the immune system tried to create with the pro and anti-inflammatory cytokines. The imbalance of this system brings about all of these negative effects, and we see that a cytokine storm has occurred. So, we definitely do not want to see ROS roaming around. Here is one main reason why ROS concentrations rise: mitochondrial dysfunction. The mitochondria in our body, in our cells, are meant for the production of cellular energy and other essential purposes like cellular respiration. When the mitochondria moves into dysfunction, a large production and accumulation of ROS occurs within the cell. This influx leads to the increased concentration of roaming ROS. So, what are the causes of mitochondrial dysfunction? To name a few, some pharmaceutical drugs, exposed chemicals, smoking, and other pollutants can easily lead to mitochondrial dysfunction. One way to counter this ROS buildup is, of course, to take in more antioxidants. However, the body also has its own genes to produce antioxidant enzymes to help the process. All we have to do is give the body what it needs to transcribe the right proteins for the job. Now, here is an article released recently about the role of PPAR-γ in modulating the cytokine storm of COVID-19. It binds to the activated PPAR-γ receptor. Now, once the whole PPAR-γ RXR complex is formed and fully active, it is able to enter the nucleus. Here, it binds to a specific gene and induces its transcription. The gene that it binds to is called the peroxisome proliferator response element, PPAR-γ for short. And when this PPAR-γ is transcribed and translated, the resultant proteins do two things. One, it induces the silencing of pro-inflammatory genes by inactivating NFK-beta. And two, it also induces the expression of antioxidant enzymes. So, not only does PPAR-γ help the body bring down the inflammation, but it also helps the body reduce ROS levels in order to avoid any cytokine storm from occurring in case of an infection. You can see here that PPAR-γ actually has many other advantageous effects on the body. So, what we really need to do in this current pandemic is to stay prepared. We can only avoid the virus from infecting us to a certain extent if we keep our bodies free of ROS, with boosted levels of antioxidants and a healthy immune system. The infection cannot go past our defense system. Chlorella sorokiniana is a very strong agonist of PPAR-γ. Taking this would give our body the push and the upper hand that it needs to get itself ready for any viral infection. So, lastly, let me leave you with this amazing product that gives us a concentrated amount of what we are all eager to give our bodies. Vitagen PPARs is an algae-based natural supplement with Chlorella sorokiniana made in Singapore. It is 100% vegetarian and has helped many people around the world boost their immunity during this pandemic. So I hope that you now have a clearer understanding of what COVID-19 virus does to your body, and that you have the knowledge and the means to gear up and protect yourself and your loved ones during this pandemic. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope that this presentation has been useful and informative to you. If so, please leave a like, subscribe, and share this video, and do leave a comment if you have any questions for me. See you next time.